Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to another video. Some very sad news today for the RTS community. We have recently learnt that Battle Aces, being developed by Uncapped Games, has unfortunately been cancelled. The game is not going to release, and in this video I want to delve a little bit into maybe some of the reasonings behind that, and why this exactly happened, and then what this also means for the RTS community, what it means for other games in a similar position like Stormgate. So first off here, let's just take a look at what Battle Aces have posted. This is over on X, but I know they posted this on Reddit and many other places. So they say, today, with deep regret, we are announcing that development on Battle Aces has come to an end. Creating Battle Aces has been tremendously rewarding, and we are grateful for the passion and support from our community. Unfortunately, the returns from early testing were not strong enough to support continued development. This decision was not made lightly. Battle Aces represented a bold vision, our attempt to reimagine real-time strategy for a new generation. We set out to create something fast, tactical, and approachable, while still delivering the depth that makes RTS special. Every step of the way, from internal playtests to closed betas, we were fueled by your enthusiasm, feedback, and support. From all of us at Uncapped Games, thank you for joining us on this journey. To the players who showed up match after match, to the fans who theory crafted, shared strategies, created content and invited friends, to the testers who reported bugs, submitted surveys and helped us improve, to the creators who lit up Twitch and YouTube with excitement and curiosity, to our community, you inspired us every day and made Battle Aces memorable. We'll always be proud of what we built and the community that formed around Battle Aces. While the game's journey ends here, the connections, ideas and memories we have shared will remain with us forever. Thank you for being part of this adventure. Thank you for believing in our vision, all of us at Uncapped Games. So this is a significant point, obviously, in Battle Ace's development journey here, but also I find in my own on the channel. You know, when I first created this channel, it was the start of a new real-time strategy boom, essentially, where we were looking to reinvigorate the genre, get some new blood in here, and this was being done by several companies making several games. I originally chose to cover Stormgate, but I've definitely had my eye on both Battle Aces, Zero Space, and a number of other titles as well. And unfortunately, it looks like Battle Aces here is the first one to bite the dust. And it's kind of ironic because at the same time, I would say that Battle Aces, whilst it may have been the most simplistic of all of them, it really was the most polished, finished and ready for release title of them all. I'm showing you guys some old footage that I recorded from a previous video here in the background, as obviously I can't record any new stuff for you, but you can just tell by the gameplay how finished this looks. And to be honest with you, I am shocked that they didn't release the game earlier. In fact, I think they could have released this game a year ago when they, started hyping it up, and bigger content creators, maybe than myself, like, Artosis and Tasteless and Day9, started making videos about it. I feel like they could have ridden that hype wave a little bit better by just releasing the game like a shadow drop of this brand new game that nobody had heard about before, and then figuring out any of the balancing issues and adding new units to the game along the way. For anybody who's unfamiliar and has never heard of Battle Aces, by the way, this game is basically a simplified RTS. There's no base building in this. You just press a button to build an expansion, and really the focus is on the micro. You pick a deck as you would in a card game, and those are the units that you have available to you. Your enemy picks his deck, and you basically just go at it. Very short games, 5 to 10 minutes each. And whilst I wouldn't say it was a game that was going to replace RTS games like StarCraft, for example, it certainly would have been a welcome addition. I absolutely loved the game. I had a bunch of fun in both of the beta tests that I tried, and it's just a massive blow to hear that it's just not going to come out anymore. Now, I can't say this comes as that much of a surprise. As a content creator, I've been keeping my eye on Battle Aces, and they've had 3 betas, I think, so far. I played in the first of those, and there was a decent amount of hype around the game. By the time we got to the second beta, some negativity had grown because they were trying to figure out the monetization model for the game. So it was supposed to be a free-to-play title, but what they ended up doing is locking some of the units that you would unlock and then be able to put in your deck behind a battle pass. Now, this was, of course, just in the beta testing, so they were doing this for testing purposes. Myself and most other people in the community reacted pretty negatively to that, saying you can't go and lock the content of the game in a battle pass. Battle passes have to be cosmetics only. You can't put game content in there. And then by the time they came around to the third beta test, they had reverted all of that. And basically, they just gave you all of the units in the game. They had a purely cosmetic battle pass in there. But what I found is that it felt like there really wasn't enough to do in the game. Whilst there was a solid foundation and the bones were there, we essentially just had 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2. It was all on the same map, so there was no variety in that regard. There's no campaign or anything like that. So, really, you're going to get quite bored with the experience if you don't have anything interesting to unlock. So I think what happened is they kind of got stuck between a rock and a hard place. They couldn't figure out a way to make the free-to-play model work, and at that point they were then looking at maybe having it a paid game. But unfortunately, the amount of interest in it, the amount of players that were in the beta, I can tell you was somewhere around 50. So yeah, not really that much interest. I check Twitch, and I regularly do this before I make videos because as a content creator, I'm weighing up, is it worth me actually making a video about this game? Because if you guys aren't interested in it, then what's the point? And interest in Battle Aces at that last beta test was pretty low. There was nobody streaming it over on Twitch, really. I looked on YouTube. I think the only new videos that have been made about that new beta phase were from Day 9, and it was just some, uploads of his live streams. So that sort of told me that there wasn't really a lot of hype around Battle Aces. So I wasn't mega surprised to hear this announcement, but it's still extremely sad that they couldn't figure it out. Now, I really hope the folks at Uncapped Games, manage to do something else. I hope they don't just can the studio as well after this, because there are clearly some talented people working there. There are ex-Blizzard folks there who worked on StarCraft 2, such as David Kim, who was in charge of game balance for StarCraft 2 for a long time and did a great job there. So I do hope they're going to continue and maybe be able to acquire funding for another project. Another worry that has been on everybody's lips, especially in the Stormgate community, has been, is this prophesizing the future? Is this what's going to happen to all of these up-and-coming RTS games, especially since clearly Stormgate doesn't have the player base that I think anybody hoped it would have? But I want to point out one major difference between Battle Aces and Stormgate. So Stormgate has acquired its funding via investments, but it is self-publishing the game. It is in charge of what it does with its capital, and as long as they want to continue making the game, they can do it until money runs out. So in terms of Stormgate, the only way the game gets canned, I believe, is if cash runs out. If they can't acquire any more funding, that may just be the end of the road. But as far as I've heard, they're pretty much good up until 1.0. Now, whether they manage to do a nice good marketing push at 1.0 and get enough people on board to support a free-to-play game like Stormgate is another question entirely, and time will tell. But with Battle Aces, they were being published by Tencent. And the sad thing here is, for Uncapped Games, this was, as far as I know, their only game. And for the RTS community, this was one of a few upcoming RTS games that actually showed potential. But for Tencent, this is nothing. They have their fingers in so many pies, not just in the world of gaming, but many other sectors as well, that they simply look at all of their projects, and if they don't show a ton of promise, they will just get canned. So I believe that's what happened here with Battle Aces. They couldn't figure out a free-to-play model. They said, okay, maybe we just charge, a box price for the game, like we've recently seen Tempest Rising do, which, by the way, was one of the 12th top-selling games on Steam for that month. It did particularly well, and really, I just bought it for the campaign, and that was enough for me. But I think based on the beta numbers, they didn't expect that there would be enough interest, enough people to buy a box copy of the game, and so it just wouldn't be worth it to continue development. Personally, I think that they were wrong. I think that there are a lot of people these days who don't have the patience for early access, who don't have the patience for, beta testing and alpha testing. There are so many games coming out that they just want to play finished, completed, polished games when they're done. There's probably a lot of people who are keeping an eye on it, and I was definitely one of them. I also don't want to play every beta test so that I'm bored of the game before the game actually releases. Like, I'm not a pro player who needs every single hour that he can get in order to, really strive to be good at the game as soon as it releases. I'm just like most of you guys are, and I'd be willing to bet that the majority of you who watch the channel here for Stormgate updates are doing the exact same thing with Stormgate. You're waiting for the 1.0 release, but you're keeping one eye on the news, right? You're seeing how the game is progressing and sort of weighing up, is this a game I actually want to play at 1.0 or not? So again, with Stormgate, the fact that the player numbers are so low at the moment doesn't really worry me that much if the game will be good at 1.0 and they can do a significant marketing push. Anyway, those are my just general thoughts about it right off the bat. That's, I think, what probably happened. Clearly, this has all been, discussed internally at Uncapped Games and at Tencent, so I doubt they will publish any findings about that, at least not publicly, about why they, ended up having to can the project. But it's sad, man. It's just a sad day whenever this happens, and, it makes people turn to the next RTS game and inevitably wonder if the same thing is going to take place. But all we can do is cross our fingers and hope for the best. So, guys, if you're somebody who is interested in Stormgate in the future, make sure you keep an eye on the game. Go and play it if you want at the moment, but if you're somebody who's waiting for 1.0, that's totally understandable as well. I'm sure wishlisting over on Steam definitely helps the developers out though, and just keeping your eye on social media, watching my videos here on the channel, although I am a bit biased, I guess, in saying that, but I will do my best to keep you guys up to date. I know it's not exactly the most positive video today, but leave a like down below if you enjoyed it, subscribe to keep up to date with everything Stormgate, as well as other RTS games, and I'll see you all in the next one.